Marcus Chun presses back against the cold metal wall of the industrial vent shaft, his fingers cramping from holding his weight for the past 6 hours. Below him, the glowing lights of Throne Prime's lower district stretched endlessly into the haze. Above him, another 100 stories of the Imperial Medical Spire disappeared into clouds. He had been climbing for a day and a half now, and his body screamed for him to stop. 3 years ago, Marcus had been an engineer on a colony transport ship. Then the ship crashed on this alien world, and everything changed. No identification papers, no credits, no way to contact Earth. The Valerian authorities had barely glanced at the human survivors before shuffling them into the shadow slums beneath their gleaming towers. Most humans here worked illegal jobs or begged. Marcus did both. Today, he was climbing because he had nothing left to lose. The massive medical spire rose in the center of the capital like a silver needle piercing the sky. At its peak sat something everyone on the planet could see through the transparent dome: Emperor Kelthrin, the ruler of 1,000 worlds, lying motionless in a glowing stasis chamber. He had been like that for 6 months, ever since someone tried to kill him. Marcus did not care about alien politics. He cared about the fact that medical facilities had supplies, food, maybe even medicine he could sell. The building security focused on ground entrances and air traffic. Nobody expected anyone to climb the maintenance shafts. His hands found a next grip, and he pulled himself higher. The cold wind at this altitude cut through his thin jacket. His vision blurred from exhaustion and hunger. When was the last time he had eaten? 2 days ago, maybe 3. Someone had thrown half a protein bar into his cup while he sat on the street corner. The memory made him angry. He had once designed life support systems for spacecraft. Now he was grateful for scraps. Another vent, another 20 meters. His arms shook. The climb was harder than he expected. Several times he nearly fell, catching himself at the last second. The artificial gravity systems hummed through the walls, keeping him pressed against the surface just enough to maintain friction. As dawn broke over the city, Marcus finally reached the top section of the spire. The maintenance shaft opened onto a service platform. He dragged himself over the edge and collapsed, gasping. Every muscle burned. His hands were bleeding from dozens of small cuts. For 10 minutes, he simply lay there, watching the orange sun rise over the alien skyline. The towers of Throne Prime reflected the light like crystal. It would have been beautiful if Marcus were not so tired and hungry. He forced himself to stand. The service platform connected to the observation level, the chamber where the Emperor rested. Through a circular doorway, Marcus could see the soft blue glow of the stasis field. He stumbled forward, not really thinking anymore. His engineer's mind noted the technology even through his exhaustion. The chamber was predecessor tech, ancient and sophisticated beyond anything modern species could build. The transparent dome curved overhead, made from a material harder than diamond but perfectly clear. And there, suspended in light, floated Emperor Kelthrin. The Valerian was massive by human standards, easily 8 feet tall with silver blue skin and 4 arms folded across his chest. His face was eerily peaceful. Tubes and sensors covered his body, monitoring every cell. The readings on nearby screens showed minimal brain activity. The Emperor was alive, but barely. Marcus walked closer, drawn by simple curiosity. In 3 years on this world, he had never been this close to a Valerian of importance. Usually, they ignored humans completely. Sometimes they stepped over homeless ones lying in the street. The transparent dome felt warm under his palm. Marcus leaned against it, too exhausted to care about consequences anymore. His vision swam. The hunger and exhaustion from the climb finally caught up to him. His legs buckled. He collapsed forward, both hands pressing flat against the dome surface. Light exploded around him. It was not painful, but it was overwhelming. Blue and white energy rippled across the dome like lightning. Alarms shrieked. The stasis chamber's readings went wild, every screen flashing red warnings. Marcus tried to pull away, but his hands seemed stuck to the surface. Heat flooded through his body, his mind filled with images, memories that were not his own. A throne room, alien faces, the feeling of something sharp between his shoulder blades. Falling, Darkness. The light faded as quickly as it started. Marcus collapsed onto the dome, unconscious. 60 seconds later, heavy boots thundered into the chamber. Security forces surrounded the dome with weapons drawn, shouting commands. But they all stopped when they saw the impossible. Emperor Kelfrin's eyes were open. Marcus woke to the feeling of silk sheets against the skin. For a confused moment, he thought he was back on Earth, back in his old apartment before everything went wrong. Then he opened his eyes and saw the vaulted ceiling covered in alien script, and reality crashed back. He was lying in a medical bed inside a room that was larger than the entire shelter where he usually slept. The walls gleamed with polished stone that changed color from blue to purple as he watched. Through tall windows, he could see the capital city spread below like a carpet of lights. His wrists were locked in metal restraints. The door opened with a soft hiss. 3 Valorians entered, their tall forms moving with practiced grace. The one in front wore robes marked with symbols of high rank. His silver-blue face showed no warmth. "The human is awake," the Valorian said, speaking in the common trade language most species used. "Good. We have questions." Marcus tried to sit up, but the restraints held firm. His mouth was dry. "Where am I? What happened?" "You will answer, not ask," the Valorian snapped. "I am High Chancellor Vexthar. You broke into the Imperial Medical Spire. You touched the Emperor's stasis chamber. Now you will explain what human witchcraft you used to wake him." "I don't know what you're talking about," Marcus said honestly. "I was just trying to find food. I touched the dome and there was light, and then nothing. That's all I remember." Vexthar leaned closer. His 4 arms crossed in a gesture Marcus had learned meant suspicion. "Lies. The Emperor has been comatose for 6 months. The moment you touched his chamber, he awakened. This is not coincidence." A female Valorian stepped forward. She wore the white robes of a medical worker, and her expression seemed less hostile. "High Chancellor, perhaps I should explain what we discovered." Vexthar waved one hand in permission. The female Valorian looked at Marcus. "I am Dr. Renala, Chief Medical Scientist. What happened was not your doing, human, but neither was it an accident." She activated a holographic display that appeared in the air between them. "The Emperor's stasis chamber is predecessor technology. Do you know what that means?" Marcus shook his head. "The predecessors were an ancient race that vanished millions of years ago. They left technology scattered across the galaxy. We Valorians are descended from them. Our genetic code carries their markers." Dr. Renala manipulated the display, showing 2 DNA strands. "When we scanned you, we discovered something shocking. Humans also carry predecessor markers. Your species is another descendant race. We did not know this because humans are rare in this part of space." Marcus stared at the display. "So we're related?" "Distantly. Very distantly." Dr. Renala pulled up more data. The stasis chamber recognized your genetic signature. It activated an ancient protocol, a neural bridge between you and the Emperor. Your brain patterns synchronized with his. That synchronization pulled him from his coma. "Okay," Marcus said slowly. "So I helped wake him up. That's good, right? Can you let me go now?" The silence that followed told him the answer before anyone spoke. "There's a complication," Dr. Renala said quietly. "The neural bridge did not disconnect. You and Emperor Kelfrin are linked. His consciousness is awake, but his body remains paralyzed from the assassination attempt. He cannot speak or move without your presence. If you move more than 100 meters away from him, the connection breaks. He will fall back into a coma." Marcus felt cold despite the warm room. "You're saying I'm stuck to him?" "The bond is permanent," Dr. Renala confirmed. "Your neural patterns are entangled. Where you go, the Emperor must go. If you die, he likely dies as well. This is unacceptable." Vexthar slammed one fist onto a nearby table. "A human, a primitive, homeless vagrant, is now the lifeline of our divine Emperor? The Empire will not tolerate this. The human must be eliminated. We will accept the Emperor's death as the will of fate." "No," said a new voice. Everyone turned. A Valorian in military armor stood in the doorway, flanked by a dozen soldiers. His armor bore the crest of the Imperial Guard. High Chancellor, the Emperor's own guard will not allow harm to come to this human. He is under our protection by direct order. Order? Vexthar demanded. The Emperor cannot speak. He can, the guard captain said. Through the human. Marcus felt something then, a presence in his mind that was not his own. It was vast and ancient, like standing next to an ocean. Words formed in his thoughts, words he somehow knew were not his. His mouth opened, and a voice that was but somehow different spoke. The human, Marcus Chun, is under Imperial protection. Any who harm him commit treason. The room went silent. Marcus sat frozen, terrified. The presence in his mind felt like a weight, powerful and completely foreign. Emperor Kelthrin was inside his head, and apparently they were stuck together. Marcus stood in the Imperial Council chamber, wearing clothes that cost more than he had earned in his entire life on this planet. The robes felt wrong on his skin, too fine, too clean. Around a massive circular table sat the most powerful beings in the Valerian Empire, and every single one of them was staring at him with barely hidden disgust. Emperor Kelthrin sat beside him in a hoverchair, his large body still paralyzed but his eyes alert and aware. The neural bond hummed constantly in the back of Marcus's mind like a second heartbeat. After 3 weeks, he still was not used to it. "We cannot delay the trade negotiations with the Rothani Collective any longer," said Minister Kalash, her forearms gesturing at data displays. They grow impatient. "But how can we negotiate when our emperor must speak through a human who knows nothing of our customs?" Marcus felt a flash of anger through the bond. Kelthrin's anger, not his own. The sensation was strange, like tasting someone else's food. Then words formed in his mind, and Marcus spoke them aloud. "The Rothani respect strength and directness. Minister Kalash has negotiated with them before. She knows this. Her concern is false. She wants to delay until she can position her own trade partners more favorably." Kalash's face darkened. "How dare?" "It is true," another council member interrupted. "I have seen the reports." Marcus was learning that the Emperor saw things others try to hide. Through their bond, Kelthrin's centuries of experience in reading people flowed into Marcus's awareness. It was useful but exhausting. After the council meeting ended, Marcus walked beside Kelthrin's hoverchair through the palace corridors. The Imperial guards followed at a respectful distance. Marcus had learned they were the only Valorians who treated him with something close to respect. Everyone else saw him as either a tool or a curse. "I hate this," Marcus said quietly, knowing Kelthrin could hear his thoughts anyway. "I'm just repeating your words like a recording device. Why can't you speak directly?" The response came as feelings and impressions rather than words. Kelthrin's body was still healing from the poison that had nearly killed him. His vocal cords were damaged. His muscles would not obey. But through Marcus, he could function. Through Marcus, he could protect the empire he had spent his life reforming. Marcus felt the Emperor's frustration too. A proud warrior reduced to depending on a human vagrant. The shame of it burned through their connection. "We're both trapped," Marcus said. "You in your body, me in this situation." Agreement pulsed through the bond. That night, Marcus could not sleep. The palace quarters they had given were beautiful, but felt like a cage. He stood on the balcony, looking at the city lights and thinking about Earth. His sister was there, probably thinking he was dead. He would never see her again. Never go home. A presence touched his mind. Kelthrin was awake too. Through the bond, the Emperor shared a memory. Marcus saw through Kelthrin's eyes, standing on the same balcony decades ago, watching the city burn during a civil war. He felt Kelthrin's determination to rebuild, to make the Empire better, to protect the weak instead of crushing them. More memories followed. Kelthrin stopping the genocide of a species that previous emperors had tried to exterminate. Kelthrin creating laws to protect workers and limit the power of corrupt nobles. Kelthrin personally traveling to disaster zones to ensure aid reached those who needed it. The Emperor was not the tyrant Marcus had imagined. Marcus shared his own memory in return. Working in the slums, helping another homeless human fix a broken water purifier using scraps and wire. Small kindness in a harsh world. Understanding passed between them. They were not so different. The next morning, Marcus was studying palace security reports when he noticed something odd. The guard shifts on the night of the assassination attempt did not match the official records. 3 guards who should have been protecting the Emperor's chambers were reassigned at the last moment. He showed the reports to Kelthrin. Through the bond, he felt the Emperor's sharp attention focus on the data. "This is important," Marcus said aloud, and this time the words were his own, not Kelthrin's. Someone changed the guard rotation. Someone with high authority. Kelthrin's presence in his mind surged with urgency. Together, they began to see the pattern. Financial records showing suspicious payments. Security footage with convenient gaps. Council members who had pushed the Emperor to attend the dinner where he was poisoned. All trails led back to one person. High Chancellor Vexthar. The man who had wanted Marcus dead. The man who now sat on the council, pretending to serve an emperor he had tried to kill. Marcus felt fear, but also something else through the bond. Kelthrin's cold determination. They had found the traitor. Now they needed proof before he struck again. That evening, during another council session, Marcus made a calculated risk. When Vexthar suggested a new security protocol, Marcus spoke with Kelthrin's voice. "Interesting suggestion, High Chancellor. Similar to the protocol you implemented the night of the assassination attempt." Vexthar's face remained calm, but Marcus saw his pupils dilate. Kelthrin saw it too through their shared perception. The Chancellor smiled. "The Emperor remembers incorrectly. That protocol was implemented weeks earlier. Then the records have been altered," Marcus said. "We should investigate." "Of course," Vexthar replied smoothly. "I will personally oversee it." As the meeting ended, Marcus felt Kelthrin's grim certainty. Vexthar knew they were suspicious. He would have to act soon. They had just made themselves targets. The explosion ripped through the palace wing at midnight. Marcus woke to alarms and the feeling of Kelthrin's sharp alarm through their bond. Imperial guards burst into his room, weapons ready. "Assassination attempt," the captain barked. "We need to move now." They ran through smoke-filled corridors, Marcus pushing Kelthrin's hoverchair as fast as it would go. Behind them, he heard weapons fire and screams. Vexthar had made his move. "The main hangar is compromised," a guard reported. "They're everywhere." Marcus's engineering mind kicked in. "The maintenance tunnels. I came up through them. There's a service hangar on the east side." The guards looked at each other with doubt. Following a human's advice went against their training. But the captain nodded. "Show us." Marcus led them through narrow passages he had memorized during his weeks in the palace. These were the spaces where servants and maintenance workers moved unseen. His time living in the slums had taught him to notice these hidden paths. They reached the service hangar to find a small transport ship waiting. A Valerian pilot stood beside it, one of Kelthrin's loyal officers. "My Emperor," she said, bowing. "I received your message. Where do we go?" Through Marcus, Kelthrin spoke. "To the frontier. To Kelmar Station. Admiral Thexan will shelter us there." They launched into the night sky as more explosions lit up the palace below. Marcus watched through the viewport, feeling Kelthrin's grief through their bond. The Emperor's home was burning, taken by a traitor he had once trusted. Kelmar Station orbited a distant world on the Empire's edge. Admiral Thexan, a grizzled warrior with scars covering 2 of his forearms, met them personally. "My Emperor," Thexan said, his voice rough with emotion. "We heard the broadcasts. Vexthar claims you are dead and the human is a puppet master using forbidden technology." "Vexthar lies," Marcus said with Kelthrin's words. "He orchestrated the original assassination. When it failed, he tried again." "I believe you," Thexan said. "But we need proof. And we need allies. Half the Empire thinks you're dead. The other half thinks you're compromised." Over the following weeks, they traveled to worlds Kelthrin had personally saved during his reign. On Drex 4, they met refugees from a war the Emperor had stopped. On Minthra, they found colonists whose crops Kelthrin had saved from a plague by sending aid when the Council voted against it. Each world pledged their support. But it was not enough. Marcus studied star charts late one night, Kelthrin's presence resting quietly in his mind. Their bond had deepened. They could share thoughts now without speaking. communicate in feelings and impressions. There has to be something we're missing, Marcus muttered. Some advantage we haven't used. An image appeared in his mind, a memory from Kelthrin, an ancient temple on a dead world, a place the Emperor had visited once in his youth but never entered. What is that? Marcus asked. Through the bond, Kelthrin explained. It was a predecessor site, one of the oldest ever discovered. His tutors had told him it was too dangerous to explore, that the technology inside was beyond their understanding. But not beyond ours, Marcus said slowly. We're both predecessor descendants. What if it needs both our genetic codes to activate? Hope surged through their connection. They traveled to the dead world with a small team. The temple sat half buried in sand, its entrance marked with symbols in a language no living species could read. But when Marcus and Kelthrin approached together, the symbols began to glow. Inside, the temple was pristine, untouched by time. Holographic displays activated, showing star maps and data streams. Marcus's engineering knowledge, combined with Kelthrin's strategic mind, allowed them to understand pieces of it. It's a control system, Marcus breathed, for the entire Empire's core infrastructure. Communications, security networks, financial systems. The predecessors built backup access into everything. But accessing it required something terrifying. The system needed permanent integration. Their neural bond would deepen beyond recovery. Marcus would never be fully human again. He would gain Valerian longevity, living for centuries, but his consciousness would be forever merged with Kelthrin's. Marcus stood before the activation panel, his hand hovering over it. Back on Earth, his sister probably thought he was dead. He could never have a normal life again. But he thought of the refugees on Drexfor, the colonists on Minthra, the millions who would suffer if Vexthar seized power and returned the Empire to its brutal past. He thought of Kelthrin, who had spent his life trying to make things better. We do this together, Marcus said. Agreement and gratitude flowed through their bond. Marcus and Kelthrin touched the panel simultaneously. Light engulfed them both. Pain and knowledge flooded Marcus's mind in equal measure. He felt his consciousness expanding, merging, changing. When the light faded, Marcus Chin was no longer just human, and Emperor Kelthrin was no longer alone. They activated the system and broadcast the proof of Vexthar's betrayal across every channel in the Empire. Simultaneously, they locked out the traitor's forces from all critical systems. Then alarms shrieked. A new signal appeared on their displays. Vexthar had activated a planet-killer weapon, aimed at Throne Prime itself. He would destroy the capital and millions of lives rather than face justice. They had minutes to stop it, but they were hours away. Marcus stared at the ancient teleportation platform in the predecessor temple. The console showed it had not been used in millions of years. Every calculation said it should not work. Every logical thought screamed that using it would kill them. But Marcus had stopped relying only on logic weeks ago. I can feel it, he said, his hand on the control interface. Through the bond, Kelthrin's consciousness merged with his, and together they understood the technology in a way neither could alone. The math says it won't work, but I can feel the pattern. I know how to make it work. The Imperial Guards looked terrified. Even Admiral Thexan seemed uncertain. My Emperor, if you die. Then the capital dies anyway, Marcus said, speaking his own words and Kelthrin simultaneously. Their voices had begun to blend. We're going. Marcus activated the teleporter. Reality twisted. For a moment that felt like forever, he existed everywhere and nowhere. Then they materialized on Vexthar's flagship, deep in space above Throne Prime. Alarm screamed immediately. Guards rushed toward them. The Imperial Guards who had teleported with them fought with desperate skill. Marcus pushed Kelthrin's hoverchair through the chaos, following the mental map the predecessor system had downloaded into their shared consciousness. They knew every corridor of the ship now, every system, every weakness. They found Vexthar in the command center, standing before a massive display showing Throne Prime below. The planet killer weapon was counting down. 8 minutes remaining. Impressive, Vexthar said calmly, not turning around. The human actually made the ancient teleporter work. Perhaps I underestimated your species. Surrender, Marcus said. It's over. We've locked you out of every system. Your allies are being arrested. You've lost. Have I? Vexthar finally turned, and Marcus saw madness in his eyes. If I cannot rule the Empire, then there will be no Empire to rule. The weapon has a direct neural interface. Only I can stop it now, and I will not. 5 minutes. Marcus studied the weapon controls. His engineering knowledge, enhanced by predecessor technology and Kelthrin's strategic mind, showed him the pattern. The neural interface was sophisticated, designed to prevent anyone but the authorized user from accessing it. But Marcus was no longer just anyone. I need to get closer, he said quietly to Kelthrin through their bond. Close enough to touch the interface. Kelthrin understood. Through their connection, the Emperor flooded Marcus with memories of combat training, of strategies learned over centuries. Marcus had never fought before, but Kelthrin had. Marcus moved. Vexthar drew a weapon, but Marcus dodged with reflexes that were not his own, rolling behind a console. The Chancellor fired again, and Marcus felt the energy blast singe his shoulder through shared pain with Kelthrin. He grabbed a fallen guard's shock weapon and threw it, not at Vexthar, but at the weapon control panel. The shock overloaded several circuits, causing the Chancellor to stumble as feedback hit his neural interface. Marcus ran forward. Vexthar recovered and struck him with 2 of his 4 arms. Marcus felt ribs crack, tasted blood, but he reached the interface and slammed his palm against it. 2 minutes. The neural interface tried to reject him. But Marcus was not just human anymore. His consciousness, merged with Kelthrin's and enhanced by predecessor technology, overwhelmed the security protocols. He felt the weapon systems open to him, like doors he could walk through. Vexthar screamed in rage and grabbed Marcus, trying to pull him away. They struggled, and Marcus felt the Chancellor's strength overpowering him. Then Kelthrin did something impossible. The Emperor, whose body had been paralyzed for months, stood up from his hover chair. His legs shook. His muscles barely responded. But through pure will and the strength flowing through his bond with Marcus, he moved. Kelthrin's 4 arms wrapped around Vexthar and pulled him away from Marcus. 1 minute. Marcus dug deep into the weapon's neural interface. He saw the countdown, saw the massive energy building to destroy the planet below, saw the fail-safes that would trigger if he simply tried to shut it down. So he did not shut it down. Instead, he changed the target coordinates, using calculations that flowed from both his human intuition and Kelthrin's tactical knowledge. The weapon fired, its massive beam lancing into space. It struck an abandoned moon in the system's outer edge, vaporizing it harmlessly. The command center fell silent except for heavy breathing. Vexthar slumped in Kelthrin's grip, defeated. The Emperor collapsed back into his hover chair, exhausted from moving for the first time in months. Marcus fell to his knees, blood running from his nose from the strain of interfacing with technology far beyond normal capability. But they had done it, together. The following weeks passed in a blur. Vexthar's co-conspirators were arrested. The Empire stabilized under Kelthrin's returned leadership. News spread across the galaxy that humans were fellow descendants of the predecessors, and Earth went from being ignored to becoming diplomatically important overnight. Marcus stood in the Imperial Gardens on the day the first official Earth diplomatic ship arrived. He wore robes that marked him as the first human ambassador to the Valerian Empire, a position created just for him. Through the landing ramp, he saw her, his sister Maya, older now, her face marked by grief that transformed into shock and joy as she recognized him. She ran. Marcus met her halfway, and they collided in an embrace. They told us everyone died. Maya sobbed into his shoulder. I thought you were gone. I was lost, Marcus said quietly. But I found something. Purpose. Family. A place where I matter. Through the neural bond, he felt Kelthrin's warm approval from the palace above. Maya pulled back, studying his face. You're different. Your eyes. I'm not entirely human anymore, Marcus admitted. It's complicated, but I'm still me. Still your brother. She hugged him again, tighter. That's all that matters. Marcus looked up at the palace towers, then at the Earthship, then at his sister. He had climbed those towers as a homeless vagrant looking for scraps. He had found instead a bond that saved an empire and united two species meant to walk the stars together. Sometimes you had to lose everything to find where you truly belonged. And Marcus Chun, the homeless human who became an emperor's voice, had finally found his home.